Here we are in week 3 of our condition inspection. One of the items I wanted to do this year was put a reinforcement aluminum plate in the bottom of our airbox. This is something that Vic Syracuse actually recommends. I'll put a link to a video of him talking about this up here in the corner. But essentially, this fiberglass box, the air filter can sit inside there, vibrate over time, and actually cut a hole through the fiberglass. So putting a reinforcement plate in here will just prolong the life of the box and keep it from having to make a repair down the road. So that's what I did this year. We've got a new air filter this year too. You can see the old air filter on the left and the new air filters on the right. You can see the old one barely has any movement to it. The new one's springy. Just look at the new one on the right there. It's much shinier. It's got better color. And these filters just get old over time, even though they're lifetime filters. We subject them to a pretty harsh environment. So they shrink. You can see the size is actually a little smaller. The size has gone down, and so it doesn't fit in the space nearly as well. It's loose. And so it was just time to go ahead and replace the filter. It has a couple hundred hours on it now. So with all the air filter pieces back in place in the box, we can put the air filter box back onto the bottom of the engine here. There's just 6 bolts that hold it into place onto the throttle manifold where the air comes in. We finished everything in the aft portion of the plane. We used this opportunity to go ahead and put the rear bulkhead back on. It's about 20 screws holding it in place, and it's a little bit of a tight fit to get in there and get it back on, so we delegate that job to Annie. She's more nimble to get in there and do all those screws. Beginning our 4th weekend on the condition inspection, we're working on getting both of the tires and wheels back on, both of the main wheels and tires back on. In this case, we're working on the right main wheel. We had flat spotted the tire earlier in the year in 2023, and so I wanted to go ahead and just replace the tire during this condition inspection. Ended up ordering the wrong part, and it came in, and so was not able to get the right part in until this 4th weekend. Finally have the right tire now, and can actually get it put back on the wheel and get everything put back on. So spent quite a bit of time taking the wheel assembly apart, getting the tire, getting the tube installed properly, getting it put back into place, and getting the wheel aligned back on. It's probably about an hour and a half's job to take the wheel off and work on it, even if you don't have to do any specific maintenance on the tire. So just a long-term, it's just a long project. You can see the plane's jacked up in order to get the tire on and off there while I sit there and work on it. And then after the tire is all in place, we grease the bearings, get it all ready to go and rack installed again for another year's worth of service. Also did a little bit of maintenance work on the left tire this year. Tire was fine, the wheel was fine, didn't require any repairs like the right tire did. However, the rotor for the brake was warped, and warped just enough that it was very difficult to get put back on. Just the heat of this braking system can cause a little bit of metal warpage over time, and so I ended up just buying a new rotor, and it went on much easier than trying to force the old rotor back on. with kind of the heat-worn parts, if you will. So that took a while to come in, and so it was not until this fourth weekend as well, before I got that rotor in, that I could actually get it replaced and get the left tire and wheel back in place. One of the last things we do here is get the oil in the engine and get it ready for, do a last minute check to make sure everything looks connected. We didn't leave any tools laying on top of the engine. There's no cables that are missing or disconnected, anything that needs reconnected back up. So putting our oil in, and we're getting ready to do all the final checks before we put the cowling back on. So we will put the cowling back on here, both the bottom cowling and then the top cowling, get the engine all ready, and we want to take it outside and actually just quickly test the engine, make sure everything was working properly. We take the plane out, turn the engine on, just give it a quick check, a little bit of a taxiing check here to make sure everything's working right. Mainly what I'm checking for is that the engine is capable of running properly, don't hear any strange noises, all of the temperatures and pressures look good. In this case, because we did replace the rotor, I do a brake check, which involves a little bit of high-speed taxi and then slowing back down to kind of break the rotor in. As well as just making sure that the engine fueling amount makes sense, because we did have some pieces disconnected for the fuel system when we do the testing on the fuel filter, and so we need to get fuel back into all the lines, and so it takes a little bit of time for fuel to properly make its way back in and get all the air out of the system. With the engine test looking good, we're putting all the wheel pants back on and getting ready for another year of flying. I will note that there's a significant amount of work that goes in these condition inspections that obviously we didn't capture in these videos. So I have a thorough checklist that I go through each year. It's about 10 printed pages of checklist, and one at a time we go through every item and check or inspect, lubricate, validate, just do a number of things, make sure all the controls are working properly. And so, condensing this down into a short video, you don't capture all that stuff. So please don't take these videos as gospel on all of the things we do. This is a very condensed version of just some of the more interesting parts of the condition inspection. Hope you enjoyed this 4-part series of our condition inspection. It took us about 4 weekends to do the work from start to finish. That's a little longer than usual for us. We'd like to be done in 2 weekends, a start weekend and then a weekend to wrap it all up. This year it went a little bit longer just due to the fact we had some parts that were ordered incorrectly and some parts that didn't come in fast enough, and so we ended up spreading it across 4 separate weekends. We could have probably expedited by either doing some work on the weekdays or by ordering things with faster delivery, but in this case the flying season for us was not great weather, and so we weren't in any particular hurry to get the airplane back up and flying again. That's why we opted to just do the work over the weekends.